Well, hello there. Welcome to another video from the Hidden Woman Within YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. If this is you're returning, you've seen the videos before, welcome back. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a video. Subscribe if you like the content. And if you like it, hit the thumbs up. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down. Your choice. Anyway, let's get into this video. I know excuse me, it's Saturday, and I said I would be putting a video out every other week, and I was not able to do that this time. You can tell by my cough, I'm on the tail end of getting over something that knocked me down on my back and had me in bed for like 4 days. And then I had a really hard time getting my strength back. It was a cold. It was not COVID. I didn't have COVID. I've never had COVID, and I don't receive it in Jesus' name. And so anyway, I'm better. Just sometimes at night, a little naggy cough might wake me up. But in any event, I'm here today with the Hidden Woman Within video. And our topic today is relationships. Sometimes I have in my mind what I want to talk about, and then I'll start kind of preparing for that. And then it kind of gets changed. So basically, I'm gonna go with what the Lord say to do. And so right now I'm talking about relationships, and I'm going to give a definition of relationships. Now, I don't want anybody to feel like you don't know what a relationship is, but I just like to make things clear. So this way you have some clarity on what I'm talking about. And I have some notes here. And so you'll see me look off to the side because my notebook is over there. You will also forgive the glare on my glasses. It's the light from my phone. And because I have notes, I need my glasses today so I can see how to read these notes, okay? So again, forgive the glare. So relationship. What is the definition of a relationship? It's a connection, an association or involvement, connection between persons by blood or by marriage. The relationship between two people or groups is the same way in which they feel and behave toward one another. And there are many types of different relationships. You have family, friendship, romantic relationship, acquaintances, and then work related. It's a connection between people that you have to work to maintain. So with that, I'm going to tell you a story about, a relationship that I had, a friendship that I had that maybe tainted my way that I deal with people when it comes down to friends. And yes, I think it has. So many years ago, when my children were little, I was on the system, the welfare system. And I know I've heard a lot of people say that people that are on welfare are lazy. Well, I disagree. Because they put a blanket over it. And everybody that's on the system, even today, is not lazy. There's not a lazy bone in my body. And I was on the system for not a long time, but long enough to be able to get myself together, get on my feet. So, excuse me again. So at that time, they had different programs and things that you can get involved with to try to take you from what they called from welfare to workfare. And so I got involved in a program to become a nurse's aide. And so they paid for my children to be in daycare. I had my three oldest children, and they paid for them to be in daycare. So I would get up in the morning and drive one way to take them to daycare and then almost go in the opposite direction to go and take this class. And while I was in the class, I met this lady, and we became friends. So anyway, the way that it worked out, and I'm going to tell you everything. She was an older white woman, and we got to know each other. Come to find out, she lived not very far from me. Now, because I said she was a white woman, I'm not trying to make any color distinction. Oh, because she was this, that's why she did that. And I'm not saying that. I'm just kind of giving you some facts here. So she and I became friends. And as a matter of fact, she only had one daughter, and her daughter's name is Rhonda, and my oldest daughter's name is Rhonda. So when we realized that we basically lived around the corner from each other, we decided to carpool back and forth to school. So what I would do when it was my turn to drive, of course, I would take my kids to daycare, and I would come back, pick her up, and then we would go to class. When it was her turn to drive, I would take my kids to daycare and drive back home, and she would come and pick me up, so she knew where I lived. So in the process of all of that, we just began to talk, and after some time, when I realized that I was doing all the talking, because I really didn't have anybody to talk to. And at that time, I guess because she was older, I felt safe with her. And so I began to share with her all of my personal business. All of my personal business. Well, not to go into detail, because it turned out to be pretty horrific, down the road, even to the point where, she was driving a car and she thought I was driving another car, and she drove into that car head on thinking I was driving. Thank God for a witness. So anyway, with all of that, I shared a lot of stuff that was going on in the relationship that I had with my children's father, who we lived together in an apartment. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, and he lived there with us. And, that's another whole different story. I told you we all got a story. So anyway, as time went on, I think she came to the house with me one time when he was off. And so we kind of hung around their house a little bit. And then she left. And then he got upset with me and told me not to bring her back to our house because he didn't like white people. That was his story. And so I shared with her, and I said, well, my boyfriend would prefer if you didn't come to the house. So he works this hour, he works this shift or whatever. You can come by when I'm home, when he goes to work. And so she did that a couple times. But then, something changed, and she came another time when he was off. And so we all sat around, was talking and stuff. He seemed to be kind of warming up to her a little bit. And then I remember, I'm going to tell it all. I remember putting the kids to bed. It was late in the evening, and she was there. We were, talking and smoking cigarettes and drinking and smoking. I never liked that stuff because it always made me kind of hallucinate and laugh and, all that kind of crazy nonsense. And needless to say, we were not Christians at all. So in the process of us being, there in the apartment together and stuff going on, I was high. I wasn't that high. I started hearing, because she had been coming kind of on a regular basis then. I'm not paying attention. Now she knows all my business about the problems I'm having, in this relationship. And so I'm high. They wasn't too high, I guess. But then I hear them making plans to go out with each other. And I'm thinking that that's just the weed. That's not what's going on. And so at some point, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, they were gone. And still me being naive or whatever, I'm not paying attention to it. So then as time went on, she didn't come to the house as often. And so then one day, I was, the apartment that I had was a corner apartment. And a friend of mine lived on, like, there was an L shape. And sometimes we kind of hang out the window and talk. And, she was a really sweet girl, actually related to my youngest son. Um, so one day I'm in the store and I see her and she's like, "Hey, Charlotte, I didn't know that you we chatted. She said, I didn't know that you quit your job." And I said, "What do you mean quit my job?" She said, "Because I see your friend at the house all the time." And I looked at her, I said, "What friend?" And she she looked at me and her eyes got big as, like a cow at a new gate. Oh, and she started apologizing and walked away from me. And I was like, wait. Excuse me. Wait. And I followed. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, man, no. And honestly, she didn't want to tell me what was going on. Because now I was at work during the day and he worked in the evening. So when I got up to go to work in the morning, because I also, until I was able to complete the class, there were certain days that I worked at the daycare center. Because then the days that I wasn't at the daycare center, we were in class for this nurse's aid training. So um, so I finished the class, and then I am at work during the day because then I became a full time. And so they kind of did something with the money and all that kind of crazy mess. Anyway, so she's looking at me and she was like, "Charlotte, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Ann, what's the problem?" I can say Ann because y'all won't know her. And I haven't seen Ann probably from that time. And that's been over 40 years. And so she said, "Your friend is at your house every day." Like, "What you mean, my friend? Who?" And she said, "That white girl that you hang around with." I said, "No." She said, "No, Charlotte." She said, "In the morning, she is there all day until Tony gets ready to go to work." I was like, mm. So she's like, "I'm so sorry." And she was genuine and I could tell. So anyway, one morning I decide, okay, I need to find this out for myself. So I take my children to daycare and I told them I had some important business I had to take care of. And I doubled back and I went back to the apartment. Well, guess who was there? My friend. My friend. And they were sitting at the table. It wasn't like they was in bed because I think I might still be serving time in jail right now. And if I had come in and this man was in my bed with somebody else, yeah. But thank God, I ain't hurt nobody. So I come in and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" She said, "Oh, I just figured because he was home during the day and I was like, we could just visit." I said, "No, that's not how that works. So if you can't come when I'm here, don't come to my house at all." And I asked her to leave. And so then of course that caused an issue with me and him and and all that kind of stuff. And I really didn't care. So everything said and done, she did. She stopped. And so they started seeing each other out in the street. Anyway, that went on for a while to the point where, you know, it was just crazy. They got involved. They were involved with the person he said that he didn't like. So they get involved, and then one night, he didn't come. He didn't come home. So took the kids to school, to daycare, and I doubled back and went to her apartment, and there's his car. So I knock on the door, and her daughter answers answers the door, and she said, "Oh, don't they sleep?" And I said, "Baby, that's all right. Go sit down and watch TV. It's okay. I wasn't gonna cause a scene in front of this child, but I sure went in the house." And I kept telling, I'm gonna keep telling you, I wasn't no Christian. Christian. So I go in the room. I ain't not. I walk right in the bedroom, and I think the girl heard the commotion, and so she gets up. So I'm heading toward the room. She gets up, and she's got big rollers in her hair. She's got on some pretty blue pajamas, and I know she didn't jump into nothing that fast. So I still walk right on past. She says, "Oh, good morning, Charlotte," like it was okay. So I go in the room and there he's in the bed. And I snatched the covers off of him and he had on his underwear, a t-shirt, and his socks. And I started in, if you don't get your up out this bed and get over there and get your at yeah, I did all of that. So by the time he didn't so he gets up, so I leave and I have nothing to say to her. And I go back to my apartment and his stuff starts going out the window. Yeah, I was that girl back then. I was. I mean, yeah, I didn't play. And so he didn't come straight to the apartment. He went 2 towns over and got his sister because he had never seen me like that before, ever. Because that's not who I was. But I was that girl that day, for sure. And so he brings his sister in and he started saying something to me. And my grandmother had given me some furniture. And she gave me these lamps. And these lamps were heavy. They had these big old lamps. They were like skinny. But then they had this heavy bottom lead base. They had these big old lampshades on it. And he said something to me. And I grabbed that lamp. And I literally could see it crushing his skull. And his sister grabbed that lamp. And she's crying. Charlotte, don't do this, yada, 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 yada. I'll tell you, I've been in jail. And so he grabbed whatever he could and he left. And so then, of course, we not gonna live in the same house because we not doing that. So everything's said and done, and I'm telling you all this because I'm talking about relationships. I developed a relationship with this woman that I thought that I could trust. I'm confiding in her. And she's taken the very information that I used and used it against me and started seeing the guy, started dating, seeing my children's father. Well, come to find out, it was more to it for her than that because he looked almost like a twin to a guy that she was dating. Crazy, but they could have passed for relatives. And so she had broken up with this guy. And so when she saw him, she was like, oh yeah. So anyway, that all long story short, they got together, they got married. Marriage lasted 6 months. Went their separate ways. So when I talk about friends, I kind of look at it like the Bible talks about the tabernacle. You have your outer circle, your inner circle, and then your holy of holies. Who's that outer circle? They're your acquaintances. Who is your inner circle? They will probably be a little bit more than acquaintance, maybe more like a friend. And then that inner circle, that's when you have your friends. And so your acquaintances, you share like minimal stuff, nothing that, if they did repeat it, you wouldn't get nothing about it. Job, simple stuff. And then when you come into the inner court, you might share a little bit more information. You may or may not classify it confidential. But then when you talk about that inner circle, now you're talking about people that you share stuff with that you don't share with nobody other than Jesus, maybe. And that means that person that you have to have such a high regard for that person to share that information with. Because trust me, you can't tell everybody your business. Quick little joke. Last Sunday at church, pastor was ministering and he had come to a part and he was talking about how you don't confess your sins to another man. He said, and he was just talking about some other forms of religion. You don't confess. He said, especially don't tell me. He said, because I'm gonna tell Lee and she gonna tell everybody in church. He was joking. So we all had a good laugh about that. But that happens. You share your personal business with someone and then they turn around and share it with somebody else. I had 2 ladies that I'm going to call acquaintances some years ago. And we were all in the same room, just doing some stuff. And one of the ladies, started talking to me about something. And then the other woman said to her, she looked at her, she said, I shared that with you in confidence. And she just kind of looked at her, and I was like, oh. And I said to myself, okay, so I don't even remember what she said. All I know is she was sharing something that this other woman shared with her, that a friend of hers confided in her in confidence. And then she took that and went and told somebody else. See, that's why I don't play. I don't play all that nonsense with people. So when it comes down to me and my relationships, I have a large outer circle. And when I say, yeah, no, I won't say large. It's kind of medium sized. And then the inner circle, that's less. And then the outer, then the holies of holies, it's even smaller than that, because I am not a big extrovert. But if you're around me, you would be like, well, you just laugh and talk with everybody because I can. But when I'm ready to be by myself, I'm out. My kids will tell you that I am out. I can tolerate that crowds and stuff for a certain amount of time, but other than that, I like my company. I like me very much, and I like spending time with me doing the things that I enjoy doing. And so I have a very, very, very close circle of friends that if I'm going to tell you something, and the ones that I have shared stuff with, I haven't heard it again. And, and I think that our relationship is solid enough that I'm not going to hear it again, because I've had stuff shared with me that I promise you would go to my grave, because I'm not telling anybody about it unless she and I decide to talk about it again. But it won't come up again in any other conversation unless she brings it up. So basically, I'm a very private person. I know as much as I talk, you would probably not see that. But if I am talking, you only get what I want you to know. There's some stuff that you don't need to know because it's not your business. And there's some stuff that about you that's not my business that you don't have to share. So we have to be mindful of that, because nobody should ever call you, especially a Christian, and say, I heard that you said so and so. That's the way the world operates. So we have to be mindful, very mindful of those types of relationships. So again, I don't have a big circle of friends. I remember years ago, I told the Lord, I said, he talked to me about some things, and I said, well, how's that going to be possible? Because I don't even like these people. Because I like spending time by myself, and it was just hard for me to spend a whole lot of time around people. But he changed that within me. I don't mind being around people. I can laugh and talk with the hang up with the best of them. My kids used to say, "Mommy, you talk to a tree," and I was like, "Yeah, I will," because I don't know a stranger. I'm outgoing that way. But then when I want my time by myself, everybody else gets closed out, including them churns. So, that's just the way I am. And that's the way, because there's some things about you that's just not going to change. There's a lot of learned behavior that, we deal with. And so it's just the way I am. Well, if you nasty, got a bad attitude, that's not just the way you are. That's what you learned how to be. And you can change that. But, me being very, confident within my own self, and not biting my tongue, that about me is not going to change. And did I learn that? Is that a learned behavior? No, I learned how to take care of me, how to guard Charlotte. So anyway, let's go back to the relationship part. So I shared that information to say you have to be mindful of your relationships. The hallmark of relationship, any relationship, is communication. The ability to communicate openly and safely. Because if you have people in your inner circle that you can't communicate with openly, there's a problem. Now, along these lines, I have lots of stories that I can tell. I remember sharing, and I don't want to get too deep, but I'm going in. Years ago, I shared some information with someone. Excuse me. And then we wound up being in a particular setting, and trying to make sure I word this properly, as to not talk about this other person. We were in a setting where what I shared with her, excuse me, was a topic. Excuse me, one second. I need a sip of water. That what I shared with her was kind of a topic. And I knew I was no longer dealing with this, but when that topic came up, out of my peripheral vision, I saw her look at me and looked at me for a minute. And I said to myself, no, she didn't just do that. But again, I shared something, explained to her everything how it was. I was no longer involved with any of that whatsoever. But when this topic came up and the way it says someone in here is still involved in that, she thought it was me. And I said to myself, okay, this same individual, some things that happened later on, and just the way that it was operating, I thought she was a friend. And she was not. She was somebody that should have just been on the outer circle and not on my inner circle. So I learned. So that's how I learned how to judge who should be where in my life, by how you treat me and how I treat you. I promise you, I have learned some things. I have not always had this mindset. But, when you know better, you're supposed to do better. Who much is given, much is required. So as I'm maturing, there's things that I'm learning about myself that I'm like, okay, well, you need to change that. You need to fix that, because that's not right. And I think we should all learn how to examine ourselves, because I think we would make better friends, better mates, better co-workers. We could just be better people overall. So there are other essential components to a relationship as well. Mutual respect for each other. You have to respect each other's boundaries. You have to feel safe with that person. You have to understand the other person's values and who they are and how they operate. There are people that feel because they're friends that they can just talk to each other any old kind of way. And I've seen it. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not that friend, because I feel like you're being disrespectful if you can just haul off and say whatever and then not speak to me for 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months and then just come back and act like everything is okay. Now, I understand, like, even husbands and wives get into disagreements and stuff like that, but you just don't walk around for weeks and months not talking to each other. You've got to be able to deal with that. I'm like, if you say that you love this person, then where's the unconditional love? So you have to deal with that. Trust, unconditional love, commitment. I was about to say it again. Commitment. Having someone to listen to you and knowing that you've been heard. Because sometimes you be talking to people and they just trying to hope you would shut up so they can say what they need to say. I've been there, done that too. So learning how to be a good listener is a trait that you should have if you're going to be a friend. The other thing about being a friend is being in a friendship relationship is you got to show yourself friendly if you want friends. And I know people that want friends that are not friendly, and I'm like, well, I'm not the one. I'm not, because I would just rather just stay by myself. And so I kind of look at it. There's like, unless you know something more, I look at there's 2 different levels of relationships. You have a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship. What does a healthy relationship look like? What I just talked about. You trust each other, you support each other, you're equal partners. You can be yourself, be friends, y'all can have fun. It should just feel so natural to be around this person that you look forward to spending time with them, and you look forward to just, spending time away from them. So then the next time you get together, it's just wonderful. Now, an unhealthy relationship. Um, One wants to control and make all the decisions, tell the other person what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, who they can be around. They start clocking you, where you've been, how long you've been there, being dishonest, lying, disrespectful, all of that stuff. Who wants to be involved in a relationship like that? Um, I know I've been around a couple of people that said that they're good friends, and they say that they are. And I can see that they are. But one of them seems to be a little bit more dominant over the other one, and the other one seems to be real quiet about that. But then will go off and try to control everybody else. And I'm saying to myself, that looks a little off. And so again, we got to check ourselves. I'm not about to let you dominate me and then not say anything and then go me try to dominate somebody else because I don't have enough guts to speak up to you. If you're my friend, I should be able to tell you, wait now. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable about this. Can we talk about this thing? I feel like you're trying to control me or have a conversation about that thing, an open conversation. And you shouldn't be afraid to have an open conversation with your friend. I'm the type of person that if I need a Kleenex and you stand in front of me and you won't say nothing, I'm like, I think that's rude. You may not think nothing of it, but I've been around people that needed a tissue, and I would just lean and say, you need a tissue because your nose not clean. Oh, thank you. People appreciate you when they look at a place or something's not right. They appreciate you approaching them and saying, something that's going to be beneficial to them. Your blouse is inside out, or you've got a stain on the back of your skirt, or whatever that case might be. Be that kind of friend. Be the kind of friend you want somebody to be towards you. I just got a few more things here. So maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, one of my children, my son, posted something on Facebook that his wife had shown him. Excuse me. And it was a chart, and it kind of showed these phases. It kind of showed these phases of of how we spend time with people. And one of the charts said time with parents and siblings peaks in childhood, declines after age 20. The takeaway with this is to prioritize and cherish time spent with family. And that's so true. I remember before the year my mother passed away. That year, my husband and I call him husband because we were married at the time, went to my grandson's graduation in Hawaii. We had spent a couple $1,000s on that trip. And we got back, the graduation was in May, and they had sent out a family reunion letter in the month of June to say they were having a family reunion in July. Well, we didn't have the funds to just, go to New Jersey. And so we didn't go. I had no idea that would be the last time that I saw my mom. No, as a matter of fact, it wasn't. That wasn't the last time. Get my dates all mixed up, but the dates are not important. What's important is that my mom, I hadn't seen her 3 years, in the time span of 3 years when she passed away. So when she passed away, I went to New Jersey. I hadn't seen her for 3 years, but we talked on the phone every 2 weeks. That was our schedule. Every 2 weeks. And to me, talking to her on the phone was almost like being in her presence. And she used to tickle me because, she'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and she called me. It's 5 o'clock Texas time. I get up at 5 o'clock now, but I didn't then. And that phone would ring. I mean, sometimes I would hear it, sometimes I wouldn't, because we didn't have a phone in our bedroom. The phone was out in the kitchen area. And we had an answering machine. And my mother hated that thing. And she would call, say, all right, Charlotte, I was calling to say hello, but I ain't talking to her answering machine. Call me later. She talked real fast. And so later on, when I got myself together, I knew she was at work. And so I would call her and we would talk. And my mother was a very quiet woman, not rowdy at all, but don't cross her. Don't cross her. I have to tell you about my mother another time. But she would, I'd call, and whenever we talk, she was never the one to talk about any things like mothers and daughters talk about. We just didn't have that kind of relationship, but we had a good relationship. Just some things that she had gone through in her life just did not afford her the confidence to have these conversations. So whenever we talk, how Clint doing? I tell her about Clint. How Lonnie doing? She'd ask about each one of my children. How they doing? How their kids doing? She'd want to know all of that. And then, she'd tell me about church. She'd tell me about whoever died. And so when we got done with all of that, we were off the phone. And one thing that I did that I found that my mother loved was word search. And I learned that at a very early age, that's what she liked. And so every so often I would just send her a package with her word searching. And then one time I had sent her a book because she had just got done. So about 2 weeks later, I didn't hear from her. And I'm like, that ain't like her. So I called. Well, come to find out at that time she was in the hospital. And my sisters wanted me to call and talk to her because they found a spot on her liver and wanted me to talk to her because they knew she would listen to me. But not really, because when I called and I found that she was in the hospital, I called her. She was like, hello. And I said, hey. She said, hey. She thought I was calling because they were trying to talk her into having this liver thing checked out. And I'm like, because my daughter had called me. I'm not getting off track. My daughter had called me and said, Mom, Aunt Diana wanted me to see if you would talk to Grandma and see if, you could get her to let them run some tests. I said, wait, what you talking about? You trying to get me to call my mother to tell her what she needs to do with her body? Y'all must not know Alice. Excuse me. So when I called her, I think everybody else had tried. She thought that that's what I was doing. I ain't say a word. I'm like, I ain't doing it. So when I said to her, I said, well, I didn't hear nothing from you. I said, I sent your book and I didn't hear nothing from you. Did you get it? She said, oh, she sparked up. Oh, yeah. She said it came right on time. I had just finished up my last book and that one came in the mail and I started right up on it. And thank you for it. And so I chatted with her for a little while and I said, so you're in the hospital? She said, yeah. And I said, well, what's going on? Well, they claim this, that, and the other. And they claim there's some spotting on the liver. She said, well, if I was born with it, I'd die with it. I said, well, Mama, you wasn't born with it, but it's your choice what you're going to do with it. I wasn't trying to tell her what to do. Grown woman. That's my mother. So anyway, everything said and done. She was good to go after that. And then she wound up in the hospital again. And she didn't leave that time. My mom passed away from congestive heart failure back in August of 2012. And I'll get a chance to see her again. So I mourned for a little while because I wasn't sure where she was. And Jesus assured me that she is with him. And that's all I needed to hear. My mother went through a lot on this earth. She worked hard and she didn't really have the life that I thought she should have had. But I certainly didn't want to see her die and still be tormented. So I'm excited about seeing her again. So anyway, the time with your family is important. Time with friends. It's the same. It peaks at in childhood, and then by the time you turn 18, it declines sharply. So the takeaway: embrace the friendship, the breadth of the friendship, not the breadth, the depth of it. What kind of relationship do you have? Is this somebody that you can trust or somebody that you can depend on? And cherish those that are with you when your highs and your lows. Those people, that's where you find out who's with you. When you're going through something, who's there? It's almost time for me to shut down, y'all. My throat's starting to tickle. Am I talking too much? Maybe, but I'm almost done. And so you want to cherish those times with your friends. And then your partner, time with your partner, said trends upward until death. One of the most important decisions that you can make is who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, who you say I do to. Choose, if you're single, choose wisely. If you already married, I hope you have chosen wisely. Takeaway: don't settle in a relationship just because you don't want to be by yourself. Learn how to be good company to yourself. That's important because you get people that don't want to be by themselves and they wind up in relationships with the wrong people and it's just a mess. So learn how to, as my son said, date yourself. And I know how to do that. Thank you, Jesus. Time with children peaks in their 30s and declines sharply. So time with your children is short. Those years fly by. And yes, I can attest to that. Those years fly by. I can tell you that in another video I had said, what would I change if I could go back and change anything where my children were concerned when I was raising my kids? And I was like, to be present more, to have more time with them. But I was a single mom. Somebody had to work because the welfare system wasn't working for me no more. Thank you, Jesus. And I'll talk more about that in another video as well. So, if you have small kids or you just have kids in general, slow down. Take the time to embrace the time that you have with them, because I promise you, those years will move by so quickly. You'll look and you'll be like, dang, what happened? Embrace those magic years. I have a heart. I love children. Don't have a lot of patience for them. I'm good for a little while, but I'm at the age where I'm not supposed to be raising kids. That meant I'm at the grandmother stage. I'm a nana. So I don't do all that anymore. I got a couple of granddogs. I got a granddog named Ricky and a great granddog named Keelani. And I don't see Keelani. I met her one time, but Ricky, when Ricky see Nana, Ricky running in circles because he know Nana gonna give him a treat. So the other part of that is to your coworkers. I've got one more. Your coworkers. You that study time. You're with these people every day and that's anywhere between age 60 and 26 and 60. You spend a lot of time at work. So you even want to be, that's another important decision. What kind of work do you do? And who you're working with. All of those things, you spending time with these people. And you want those relationships to be intact. You want your job to be something you enjoy doing. You don't want to have to go postal on nobody because you don't like your job. And the other one, the one I find so important today, is time alone. Steadily increases throughout your your life. Learn to embrace solitude. Flex your boredom muscles. I don't have none of them. I don't know what being bored is because I look forward to spending time by myself so I can do some stuff. And find enjoying the time that you have alone, because there's going to be a lot of it as you get older, unless you're married. But if you're single and you're older, you probably spend a great deal of time by yourself. I ran into a lady that I used to clean her house for before the pandemic. She's 75 years old. She was diagnosed with cancer, and I ran into her in the store, and she didn't remember me. And I said to her, how you doing? And she's looking at me. I said, I don't look familiar. She says, no. And so just talking to her, but she's 75. She was diagnosed with cancer. I asked her how that was going. She said, well, I'm good. She said, we're still doing tests and stuff like that. And I said, so what you been doing? I said, last time I talked to you, we're going to sell the house. She said, I sold the house. She said, you probably do remember me, huh? I said, I do. I said, because your husband had passed away. You had a big old 2-story house. I used to help you clean it. And then you said you were going to sell it because it was too much. And she said she got a rent property. But girl, in 75, in the yoga class. So she's not necessarily spending a whole lot of time by herself. She has a son and a daughter who neither one, the son lives close, but she kind of got an issue with the daughter-in-law. But the daughter lives in Georgia. And so she has her downtime, where she wants to be alone. And she has her time when she wants to go out and be with her friends, because she used to play bridge. She said, I still do. So, you can embrace that time with your friends, and then also embrace that time by yourself. So basically, that's all I have for you today when it comes down to relationships. If I find that I need to go further, I will do that. This is the longest time I've ever spent. It's been almost 45 minutes. But that's okay, though. This is what I was supposed to be talking about today. And I'll see what we're going to be talking about on the next video. So until then, be blessed. Be mindful of your outer circle, inner circle, and who you allow into your holies of holies. those relationships are important. And the older, the more I mature, I find that, there are relationships that you have to be mindful of and you have to cherish. I have kids, I have grandkids. They all don't live in the state of Texas. I have my youngest daughter lives here and my two grandchildren, but they work. I mean, they're at that age, they ain't got time for nobody. And I understand. I mean, they off doing their thing. And so it never talked about time with grandparents. When you're little, you have all the time in the world with them if you live close. But as they get older, they kind of drift away. And that's okay. You pray for them that they're safe and that they're protected from the evil of this day. That is what I pray over my children and my grandchildren daily, that they are protected from the evil of this day. And as long as I can get up in the morning, there was no phone call in the middle of the night, that there was no emergency, I thank God that we all can see a brand new day. So I want the same for you and your family. So until next time, stay blessed, be mindful of your relationships. You want a friend, be a friend. Till next time, bye.